Chapter 28. Chi Wei He Xiao takes a second wife in Yang Chao. He Xiao Qin Hu Sun compiles a book in Nanking. At the west gate, Ting Hisi met his brother's servant, Ah San, followed by a man carrying sacrificial offerings, silver paper coins, and paper horses suspended from a pole over his shoulder. "Is Mr. Ni in the yamen?" Ah San asked Ting Hisi. "Where are you taking these things to?" "So you are here, sir," exclaimed Ah San. "When my master came back to the governor's yamen from Nanking, he sent someone to Peking to fetch the mistress. The man returned with the news that she had died the month before, and my master was so upset that he fell very ill, and in a few days he breathed his last. His coffin is outside the city, and I've put up at an inn for the time being. Today is the first 7th day since he left us, so I'm taking these things to sacrifice at his grave." Ting Hisi's eyes nearly started from his head, and for a moment he was speechless. "What?" he demanded at last. Is your master dead?" "Yes, sir. He has passed away." Ting Hisi fell weeping to the ground, and Ah San had to help him up. Instead of going into the city, he went to where his brother's coffin had been interred, placed the sacrificial food before it, poured a libation of wine, and burnt the paper money. "Your spirit cannot have gone far, brother," he sobbed. "I came just too late to see you once more." He wept bitterly till Ah San prevailed on him to go back to the inn for the night. The next day, Ting Hisi brought some more offerings and paper coins with his traveling money, and went back to his brother's grave. On his return he stayed for several days in the inn, until all his money was spent and Ah San had moved elsewhere. Then for about a tael of silver he pawned the new silk gown he had made for his visit to the yamen, and decided to look up Chi Wei He Xiao before doing anything else. Having taken a boat to Yangzhou and discovered from the college list that Chi was staying in the Temple of Religious Renewal, he made his way there immediately. "Mr. Chi," said the monk, "he's marrying into the Yu family today. Next door to the Salt Company in 5 Cities Lane. You'll find him there." Ting Hisi went straight to his house. The gate was hung with colored streamers, and one of the three great halls was filled with guests. Between 2 red candles burning on the central desk hung a painting of 100 children, flanked by a vermilion couplet. "May soft breeze and brilliant moon remain unchanged, for a brilliant scholar is matched with a beautiful girl." Chi Wei He Xiao, in a new square cap and scarlet gown, was entertaining guests. He stood up in surprise to greet Ting Hisi and invited him to be seated. Have you just come back from Su Chao, uncle?" he asked. "Yes," said Ting Hisi. And when I heard you were getting married, I came to drink at your wedding." "What's this gentleman's honorable name?" asked the guest. This is my wife's uncle, Mr. Pao," replied she. "So he is your uncle. We are delighted to meet him." "Will you introduce these gentlemen?" asked Ting Hisi. These are Mr. Hisin Tung Chi and Mr. Chin Yu Lu," said she, indicating the 2 men in the seats of honor. "They are well-known Yangzhou scholars. There have never been any poets to equal them, and their calligraphy is quite unrivaled. It would be hard to find a third to match them in the whole world." Just then, dinner was served. The 2 poets sat in the places of honor, Ting Hisi next to them, and the other guests, who were relatives of the Yu family, filled up the rest of the table. After dinner, while the relatives and Chi Wei He Xiao went into an inner room to prepare for the wedding, Ting Hisi chatted with the 2 scholars. "These rich Yangzhou salt merchants are a contemptible lot," declared Mr. Hisin. "Take the case of that fellow Feng from downriver, who has literally hundreds of thousands of taels. Since he asked me here from Hu Chao, when I had been here for half a year, I said to him, 'If you want to show your appreciation, you might give me 2,000 or 3,000 taels.' But not a cent would he part with. Later I told people, 'Mr. Feng really ought to give me that silver. He won't be able to take those hundreds of thousands of taels with him when he dies, and will be a poor ghost like any other. But when the king of hell builds his palace and wants a tablet for him, he's bound to ask me to write the inscription, and he'll pay me 10,000 taels at the very least. Then there's no telling but what I may give a few thousand taels to Feng. Why should he be such a miser?" They all laughed. "You are absolutely right," agreed Mrs. Chin. "Not long ago, Mr. Fang from downriver asked me to write a couplet for him, 22 characters altogether. When he sent a servant over with 80 taels to thank me, I called the fellow in. Go back and tell your master that a price was fixed for Mr. Chin's calligraphy in the prince's palace in Peking. I said, small characters cost a tael apiece, and big ones 10 taels. At this standard rate, these 22 characters are worth 220 taels. You can't have them for a cent less. After the man delivered this message, the swine Fang, to show that he had money, called in his Eden chair to pay me 220 taels. But when I gave him the scrolls, he simply tore them up. I flew into such a rage, I broke open the packets of silver and threw the money into the street for the salt carriers and dung carters to pick up. I ask you, gentlemen, aren't scoundrels like that beneath contempt? Just then, Chi Wei Hisao came back. Noodles were served and the 4 of them sat down to table. I've heard that when rich officials from the salt gabble go to a noodle shop, said Ting Hisei, they simply sip a mouthful of soup from an 8-cent bowl of noodles and give the rest to their chair-bearers. Is that true? Quite true, said Mr. Heeson. It's a put-up show, declared Mr. Chin. They fill up at home on rice from the bottom of the pan before going to the noodle shop. They chatted and joked till evening, when music sounded and Chi Wei Hisao was led to the bridal chamber. After feasting, the guests left. Ting Hisei going to the inn by the customs house for the night. The next day he came to offer congratulations and see the bride, then sat down in the hall. Nothing has happened to your first wife to my knowledge, he whispered to Chi Wei Hisao. Why have you married again? Chi pointed to the couplet. A brilliant scholar and a beautiful girl, he said. 2 romantics like myself, as long as an ideal couple can meet, one wife more or less makes no difference. I see, said Ting Hisei. Where did you get the money for this? As soon as I came to Yangchao, Inspector Heesun gave me 120 taels and put me in charge of the customs duties. I shall probably be here for some years, so I've taken another wife. When are you going back to Nanking, uncle? Well, the fact is, nephew, I couldn't find the relative I went to Suchao to see, and now I haven't got the fare back to Nanking. That's easily settled, said she. I can give you enough money for the journey, and I'd be grateful if you would take a letter to Nanking for me. Just then, Mr. Heesun and Mr. Chin came in with a Taoist priest and another man to visit the bridal chamber. Chi Wei Hisao took them in, and after joking there for some time, they came back and sat down. This Taoist friend is called Lai Hisei Shi, said Mr. Heesun to Chi. He's another of our Yangchao poets, and this is Mr. Qiao Tepi of Wuhu, a fine engraver of seals. They took advantage of this happy occasion to make your acquaintance. Chi Wei Hisao asked where they lived and promised to return the call. The other day, Mr. Pao mentioned that he came from Nanking. May we ask when he will be going back, inquired Mr. Heesun and Mr. Chin. In a day or 2, answered Chi. In that case, we shan't have the pleasure of travelling together, they said. But in this vulgar place, true worth is not appreciated. We mean to go to Nanking too. After talking for some time, the 4 of them left. Who is the friend to whom you want me to take a letter? Asked Ting Hisei. A man from Ansheng, whose name is also Chi. Chi Chen Yi. We're not related, though. He came out with me, and he's completely incompetent. So now that I shan't be going back, I must write to tell him to go home. Have you written the letter yet? Not yet. I'll write it this evening. If you come tomorrow, uncle, you can take the letter and the travelling money, and leave the day after tomorrow. Having agreed to this, Ting Hisei left, and that evening Chi Wei Hisao wrote the letter and wrapped up 50 cents of silver for his uncle to collect the next day. The following morning, a guest arrived by Eden chair, and sent in a card on which was written, Your classmate Sung Chi. Going out to greet him, Chi saw that he was a dignified-looking man in a square cap and white gown. May I ask what district you are from? Inquired Chi, when he had ushered his visitor inside. I come from Hukuang, but have spent most of my time in the capital, where Mr. Hisei Mao Chin and I served as tutors in the Prince of Chao's family. Being on my way back home now, and having heard of your great reputation, I made a point of coming to pay my respects. I brought a small portrait to ask you to inscribe a few words. When I go to Nanking, I shall ask the famous scholars there to favour me with some inscriptions as well. Your great fame long since reached my ears like thunder, responded Chi. I am ashamed to display my incompetence before a connoisseur like yourself. By this time the tea had been drunk, and Chi bowed his visitor back to his chair. Then Ting Hisei arrived, took the letter and money, and expressed his thanks. When you reach Nanking, uncle, said Chi, Please don't forget to go to number 1 Scholar Square and urge my friend in Chi Tian-yi to go home. A man can easily starve to death in Nanking. He mustn't stay there at any cost." This said, he saw his uncle out. With his silver, Ting Hisi brought a passage back to Nanking. When he reached home and told his wife the unhappy news, she abused him roundly, and because Senso Shi kept dunning them for payments, and they had no money, they had to vacate the house and forfeit their 20-tael deposit. Having nowhere else to go, they were reduced to borrowing one room from some relatives of Ting Hisi's wife, named Hu, at Inner Bridge. A few days after his return, Ting Hisi took the letter to number 1 Scholar Square for Chi Tian-yi. After reading it, Chi Tian-yi offered him some tea. "Thank you very much, Mr. Pao," he said. "I understand now." Then Ting Hisi took his leave. Chi Tian-yi was too short of cash to find himself proper lodgings, and he could not afford more than 8 coins a day to buy 4 cakes of unleavened bread, out of which he had to make 2 meals. He slept on the counter of a seal shop. When he received the letter and knew that Chi Wei Hisao would not be coming, he began to feel desperate. But he had no money to go back to Anqing, and after eating his bread each day could only sit brooding in the seal shop. One day, when he could not even buy bread, a man in a square cap and black gown came in and greeted him. Chi Tian-yi asked him to sit down on the bench beside him. "May I know your name, sir?" asked the stranger. "My name is Chi. Can you tell me whether there are well-known scholars here who compile essays?" "Plenty of them. I know Wei Ti Shan, Su Chin An, Ma Chun Shang, Chu Hisian Fu, and Huang Chao Jin, to say nothing of Chi Wei Hisiao, who was here with me not too long ago. They're all famous scholars. Which would you like?" "It doesn't matter which. I have 200 or 300 taels of silver to spend on compiling a collection of essays. I'll trouble you to fetch one of your friends here to collaborate with me. May I know your honorable name and place of origin so that I can tell them who you are?" "My name is Chuko, and I come from Hiseu County. I dare say they have heard of me. Will you go and fetch one of them then?" Chi Tian-yi asked Chuko to wait there while he went out. Though these men often come to the shop, goodness knows where they are now, he thought. I haven't the faintest idea how to set about finding them. What a pity Chi Wei Hisao isn't here. Never mind. All I need to do is walk towards Westwater Gate, keeping a good lookout, and grab the first of them I meet. I should be able to make a few meals out of him. As he reached the gate, he saw a man with baggage enter the city, and was delighted to recognize Hisao Chin Hisun of Anqing. Finally, he hurried forward to clutch him. "When did you arrive, brother?" "So it's you, Tian-yi," exclaimed Hisao. "Is Chi Wei Hisao with you?" "He went to Yangchao some time ago. I'm staying here. You've come just at the right moment. I've got a good job for you, but you mustn't forget to thank me for it." "What good job?" "Never mind that. Just come with me, and I guarantee you a good time." Hisao Chin Hisun accompanied him to the seal shop, where Chuko was craning his neck to watch for Chi's return. "Mr. Chuko," shouted Chi Tian-yi, "I brought you a famous scholar." Chuko ushered them into the shop, and when they had greeted each other, they left Hisao's baggage while they went down to the tea shop. After an exchange of courtesies, they sat down and introduced themselves. "My name is Chuko Tian Shan. I am Hisao Chin Hisun." Chi Tian-yi explained that Mr. Chuko had several hundred taels of silver to spend on compiling a book of essays. "I have had some experience in editing myself," said Chuko, "but since I have come to this great metropolis, I want to ask a well-known scholar to take me under his wing. Now that I have met Mr. Hisao, I feel like a stranded fish put back into the water." "I'm afraid my poor talents may prove unequal to the task," rejoiced Hisao. "There is no need for you both to be so polite," said Chi. You will soon be like old friends. Why don't you invite Mr. Hisao to an informal meal, Mr. Chuko, so that we can discuss this business in detail?" "A good idea," replied Chuko. "Since I am a manager here, I shall have to ask you to a tavern." They paid for tea and went into a big eating house on 3 Mountain Street. Hisao sat in the seat of honor, Chi opposite him, and Chuko in the place of host. When the waiter came, Chi ordered pig's trotters, duck, and fish preserved in wine, the 2 last to be served with the wine. The pork was to be eaten later with the rice and 3 cents worth of soup. Presently the waiter brought the wine in, and they started drinking. "The first thing we must do," said she, "is to find some roomy, quiet lodging. Then, when you have chosen your essays, you can have the engravers there and watch them cut the blocks." "The quietest place I know is the Temple of Kindness Repaid outside the south gate," said Hisao. "There is no noise, the rooms are a good size, and the price is reasonable. Suppose we go there after this meal and have a look." By now they had finished several pots of wine, and the waiter brought them the trotters and rice. Chi Tianyi stuffed himself till he could eat no more. Then, having settled the bill downstairs and gone back to the seal shop to ask the man there to keep an eye on Hisao's baggage, they walked to the south gate. There was such a lively quarter, with carriages like strings of dragons and unending streams of horses, that it took our three friends a long time to squeeze their way through. Presently they entered the grounds of the Temple of Kindness Repaid. "Let's look for a place near the gate," suggested Chi. "No, let's go further in," said Hisao. "That'll be quieter." They walked some distance, past the home for retired monks, till they came to a monastery and knocked at the gate, which was opened by an acolyte. When he heard that they were looking for rooms, he ushered them in, and the abbot came sleepily out in a black brocade hat and a robe of raw silk carrying his beads. After greeting them, he invited them to be seated, then asked their names and where they had came from. "I have plenty of rooms," he said, when he learned their business. "All the officials come to stay here. Please choose for yourselves, gentlemen." They went inside and looked at 3 rooms, then came out and sat down again with the abbot to ask the price. He demanded 3 taels of silver a month, and would not knock off a cent, however much they protested. Even when Chuko offered 2 taels and 40 cents, the abbot would not take it, but began to scold the acolyte. "Hurry up and sweep the floor," he ordered. "Tomorrow Senso Shi from Lower Floating Bridge is holding a feast here. We can't let him find the place in a state like this." Hisao lost patience. "The rooms are good," he said to Chi, but it's rather far to the market. "Guests staying here can't manage with 1 servant only to cook and shop," remarked the abbot woodenly. "You need 1 cook and 1 man to fetch and carry." "When we stay here," said Hisao with a laugh, "in addition to a cook and a manservant, we'll have a bald-headed ass to drive to market. That'll save us time." The abbot glared furiously as the 3 men stood up to go. "We will take our leave now," they said, "and let you know our decision later." The abbot saw them out. They walked another half-mile or so and knocked at the door of a priory. The prior came out to greet them, his face wreathed in smiles, offered them seats in the hall, brewed fresh tea for them, and spread the table with 9 dishes of sweetmeats, including the best cakes made with orange peel and honey, as well as walnut wafers. When they mentioned that they wanted rooms, he said, "Certainly, please choose whatever you fancy, and move straight in." They asked the rent. "That's a small matter," said the prior. "I shall count your visit an honor. Just make what contribution you please towards the incense, and I shall be more than satisfied." Impressed by the superior way in which he spoke, Hisao said, "I hope you won't be offended, father, if we offer you 2 taels a month for disturbing you here." To this the prior assented readily. Then Hisao and Chuko waited in the room while Chi went back to town for the baggage. And having ordered a novice to sweep out their rooms and move in the necessary furniture, the prior brought him fresh tea and kept his guests company until the baggage arrived late that afternoon. Hisao told Chuko to wrap up 2 taels of silver, seal the packets, and send it to the prior, who came out again to thank them. Then the 3 men lit their lamps and began to think of supper. Chuko weighed out a little silver for wine and food, and Chi made yet another trip to the city, bringing back a waiter carrying 4 pots of wine and 4 dishes, salted sausages, sea shrimps, frog legs, and jellyfish, with which the table was spread. Chuko was a country fellow who had never seen sausages before. "What are these?" he asked. "Taste them and see," said Hisao. "It's bacon," said Chuko with a couple of mouthfuls. "Go on, does bacon have a skin like that round it? That casing's made out of pig's guts." Chuko had never eaten jellyfish either. "What's this crispy stuff?" he asked. "Tastes good. Let's have some more of this in the future." After finishing their wine, they prepared for bed. Since Chi had no baggage, Hisao lent him a quilt in which to wrap himself. Early the next morning, the prior came in. "Will you 3 gentlemen condescend to share a simple meal with me to celebrate your arrival?" he asked. "Afterwards I can show you round the temple grounds." "It's very good of you, father," they answered. The prior invited them into a room on the ground floor of another building, where 4 large dishes were served. After breakfasting, they began to stroll outside. "Let's go to see Tripitaka's hermitage," said the prior, and led them to a lofty hall with a tablet inscribed in letters of gold, "Home of the First Holy One." Passing through 2 more rooms, they came to winding stairs with balustrades, and climbed up to another building. They did not suspect that there was anything behind this, but when the prior opened the double door at the back and invited them to walk through, they came out upon a great plot of level ground, as high as any house, which had an excellent view on all sides. In the middle were huge trees nearly sweeping the sky and thousands of bamboos, their leaves rustling in the breeze. In the very center was the pagoda where the relics of the monk Tripitaka of the Tang dynasty had been buried. After enjoying themselves here for some time, they went back with the prior, who entertained them that evening with 9 dishes and wine. "I have not invited guests since my appointment to this post," said the prior while they were drinking. "The day after tomorrow I am holding a feast and hiring actors. I hope you 3 gentlemen will come and watch the plays. Of course there will be no charge." "We shall certainly come to congratulate you," they replied. Presently the feast ended. 2 days after that, nearly 5 dozen guests were due from the county and city yarmans. The cooks and waiters had arrived in good time, and so had the actors, with their chests of costumes and stage properties. The prior was chatting with the 3 lodgers when a notice hurried in. "That fellow is back, father," he cried. But to know what followed, you must read the next chapter.